Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. And we've got a bike on the hoist that looks very, very similar to the Linesman's bike. That's right, it's the Linesman's brother's bike. This is the TF185, not the TS185. What's the difference, Andy? Well, this is a farm bike. It's got a single seat and a massive rack for carrying lots of animal related stuff. Now, I bought this quite a few years ago. It was a barn find from my friend Roger, and it was again down in Invercargill. Honestly, how many of these bikes did they sell down there? Lots by the looks of it. This bike's been damaged. The barn fell on it. Yes, the roof of the barn fell in and caused some sort of cosmetic-ish damage, to be fair. Maybe structural, we don't know yet. Now, I can hear you saying, Andy, why have you got another one on the hoist? You've not finished the Linesman's bike. Hey, we've hardly started the Linesman's bike. It's now in bits. That's waiting for the frame to get sandblasted. I'll get round to it. And for a lot of parts to turn up. So in the meantime, given the fact that this bike has many, many common components to the TS185, and both bikes are from around the mid-70s era, so this bike is 50 years old. It's nearly as old as I am, to be fair. Anyway, the plan of attack is I want to get this bike running. It's in a worse state than the Linesman's bike, not just due to the damage of the roof falling in, but also corrosion as well. But will the engine run? Now, I spoke to Roger and he said to me, and I quote, "Well, it was running when I parked it up." Yes. How long ago was that, Roger? I forgot to ask you that. But it's been stood at least 10 years, maybe longer. Roger, no doubt, will add that to the comments for you. Okay, so let's take a little look around the bike and you'll get an idea of whether or not we can get this thing running, because it looks pretty bad. Here we go. It's used.
Paint something without wiping.
Honestly. So where do you want to start? At the back? Okay, well, pretty cool rack. The seat's completely shot. The tank looks nice. Hopefully it's not quite as rusty on the inside as it is on the outside. Well, the shocks, they're going to be shot, and of course there's no chain. And this thing doesn't even roll. Both wheels are completely seized solid. Ben had to help me get it on the bike hoist, and literally we just manhandled and lifted the bike into place. There's no battery. The exhaust looks the same as the Linesman's bike, although it's got a slight modification to it. And it's got some air venting around this area here. So this bit, it's purely cosmetic. It doesn't do anything at all. Now, I don't even know if it turns over. This bike's been sat in one of my sheds, luckily indoors, rather than sat down in the garden. So I don't know the state of the cylinder. I don't know how corroded it is. Don't know even whether it'll kick over and the engine rotate. Now, you can tell this is a farm bike, not just from the fact I'm telling you, but it's got a right-hand side stand. A right-hand side stand, Andy? What the hell? That's right. And it's got also a left-hand side stand. And that tells us this bike was designed and built for the farmers in mind. Because farmers need two side stands, right? Moving down, well, we've got a few cobwebs. That carb surely is going to have to come off. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Sparking plug. Looks a bit iffy. I might have a spare one in stock. Well, let's have a look. And the clutch levers, well, it's just hanging in there, quite literally. That was one of the bits that got broken when the roof fell in. So no clutch. We're not going to be riding this for today. And Roger was saying that the forks, interestingly enough, these forks are not the original. These have come off a TF125, a much newer bike, but they fit straight in. And if you've been following along with the Linesman's bike videos, that was something, I was unaware until recently, but that was something we discussed as a possibility when we brought the TF125 into the workshop to have a look at it and compare. Because, you know, Suzuki, as with many Japanese companies, when they develop new bikes, they tend to raid the parts bin for the previous model. And there's a lot of parts on this bike which are common to the TF125. Again, two-stroke. And the front forks are almost identical. But these won't be being used. Look at the state of that. A little bit of patina. Fork seals just hanging in there. Nope, there'll be no oil in there. Guarantee it. I did blow the tyres up, and that one is holding pressure. I haven't checked the rear yet, though. Let's have a look. Maybe it is actually. Yes, it is. Looking at the profile, that's still holding pressure at all. Pretty amazing, really. And the seat, I'm hoping, and I haven't even checked, but I'm hoping a TF125 seat will fit straight on. If it does, that solves that problem. If it doesn't, well, we've got we have a huge problem, don't we? Because the seat base, foam and cover are completely shot. Now, if we look up the top, the speedo tells us the bike's done very little work. I can't read it from up here. I'll have to check the footage, but it's done, I think, about 9,000 kilometers from new. And that's probably original. It's about how long farm bikes last here in New Zealand. Yeah. Are you going to go, buddy? I really don't know. Now, one thing I did notice is the great news is we have an ignition key. Which is stuck in, but it does rotate. The bad news is, well, it's not connected to anything. That bit is here. So we didn't really need a key anyway, did we? Not really. So where do we start? Well, we haven't got a battery, but I've been told you can run these things without a battery. They'll still fire up. So we won't bother with that today, even though we do have a brand new battery that came off the Linesman's bike. Should we see if it tries to kick over? We should do that. All right, place your bets now. I'm not going to force it, but if it wants to rotate, then we know it's not rusted inside the cylinder. Are you ready? Don't kick back on me, whatever you do. Oh. Wow! Oh, yes! That's a win. Oh, man. Okay, there's hope yet. Too many cobwebs. Not a fan of cobwebs. Okay, so we know the engine is free and it rotates. That's great news, and it's got good compression too. Even better. This thing might go well. And who knows, the engine might end up in the Linesman's bike. No, it won't, Andy. You've got to keep it original. Yes. Okay. Right. So where do we start? For an engine to run, it has to have a spark and it has to have fuel. The air filter needs to be free of any kind of debris and allow air flow so the carburetor actually does what a carburetor is supposed to do. And the carburetor needs to allow fuel to flow through the jets and not drip fuel all the time. And the exhaust must not be plugged, because if the air can't escape from the engine, fresh air can't get in. Well, in this particular case, there is no chance that the exhaust is blocked. It's just open to atmosphere, which is good. One less thing to check. So I think the easiest thing for us to check first is spark. If we haven't got spark, we could be dead in the water, potentially. I have got a full ignition system off the Linesman's bike, which has already been removed, which we could fit. I don't want to do that. In actual fact, we don't. No, the pickup is still on the engine from the Linesman's bike, and the flywheel's still in place. And at this point in time, I don't think I've got a puller for that. Maybe not. So we could be dead in the water. Right, let's go and check for spark. So first job, we'll pop the plug out, check the condition of the spark plug. maybe use a new one and see if we can see a spark when I crank it over. Here we go. Alrighty. Well, it's still got the plug cap, which is good news. If you see any spiders starting to attack me, shout and I'll move my hand, because I'm not a fan of spiders at all. Okay, let's see if we can get that through here. It's a pretty short HT lead. The coil can't be too far away. Right, we're going in. Oh yeah, that's the right one. Oh, it wasn't over tight. That's a good thing. People tend to over tighten spark plugs all the time. Threads feel pretty good too. Good job, Roger. Roger used to ride this bike around his farm. Okay, let's go and take the plug over to the bench. Take a look. So the spark plug is a B7ES for sugar, and I'm assuming that's the right plug for this bike. Who knows? It's a bit oily, to be fair, but it's a two-stroke. It's allowed to be oily. There's a bit of build-up on the electrode there, look. It looks to be gapped pretty well. So it's all there. It hasn't burnt away. It's not, you know, really, really white, which would indicate it's running too hot. And don't forget, this is an air-cooled engine, so there's no chance of any sort of, you know, coolant getting in the cylinder. So, should we try and get a spark with this one? The original spark plug from many, many years ago? Yes, let's do that. Now, while we're on, let's take a look. Oh, look at the cap. That is super clean. If we take the boot off, we can check for any kind of tracking and stuff as well. You see in there, look. Any green crusties? Any white tracking marks? No, that's pretty damn good, isn't it? Okay, we'll pop that back on there again. He says. Silicon spray, there we go. Right, one sparking plug. Stick him in there. And we're going to need an earth. I put in the spark plug straight on the cylinder head while I'm kicking it from the other side of the bike. It's just going to bounce around and not really give us a conclusive result. So let me just clean off some of this corrosion. Yeah, I know some of the paint's going to go as well, but what the hell? We're going to need a little area, and then we can use a little clip to go on there. That'll give us a good earth, and then we can put that on there. Okay. Let me get you set up. We'll go down a bit. And I'll turn off the torch. There we go. In fact, maybe around this way a little bit actually might help. And I'm going to kick it over. And you watch really carefully for a spark, because it's not great on when you're filming because it's all to do with the frame rate. But I'll give it a few kicks and we'll see if we can get a spark out of there. Are you ready? Fingers crossed. Any joy? No? Oh. Oh, you dumbass, Andy. You didn't turn the ignition on. So, fully anti-clockwise should be off. Oh, hang on. It turns all the way around. Oh, that's one detent. Another detent. Another detent. Ah, there's a stop. Yeah, that's a stop. So we'll go one click. Pretty sure the key only has. Yes, it's only got one position. So one click, that should be on now. Cool. Try again. Okay, fingers crossed. Well, any spark? No? Oh, come on. Come on, little mud bug. You can do better than this. So I'm pretty confident the ignition is turned on. Kill switch. God damn it. Let's go and check that. Okay, so that'll be kill. That should be on. So it was in the run position. Oh. Okay, well the wires don't go anywhere. Hang on a minute, what's this? Okay, so we've got a pair of twisted together wires. Now this one, if I separate those, we've got a black with a white and a black with a yellow. Do they match what came out of here? Or is it some kind of breaker switch? Hang on. Black with a yellow. Hard to see, especially with my eyesight. Jeez. Pare it back a bit. Yes, black with a white. Okay, so the question now is, these are the wires that used to go here. Why were they cut? Did the switch go faulty? Who knows? We can find out one day. The question is, does this switch go open circuit to kill the engine or closed circuit to kill the engine? Well, these wires were twisted together earlier and we had no spark. So let's leave them separated now and see what happens. Who knows? I do have a wiring diagram for this. Sort of. I've got Suzuki did a bit of a mixture. They had the old TF185 manual and they had a TF125 manual, because both bikes around that area were very, very similar, and they just gave you like a supplementary manual for the 185. So it's a bit hard finding stuff and wiring diagrams, but I've not even bothered to look yet. We're just doing the basic stuff, right? So common sense, the wires were together before, which would mean that if the kill switch would go closed circuit to kill the engine, which is different to modern day kill switches. They would go open circuit to kill the engine. So if the switch goes faulty, the engine won't run. Whereas in this case, if the switch goes faulty, unless it goes closed circuit faulty, which is pretty rare, usually the contacts corrode, then the engine would still run and you won't be able to turn it off. If you know what I mean? Right, okay, so the wires are separated. Let's hope that this gives us a spark, because if it doesn't, we're going to be digging a lot deeper into this. Here we go. Come on, Mud Bug. Do me proud. Okay, you ready? Wires are still not touching. That's good. Right, you ready? Here he goes. Oh, I hope there's a spark. I've got to check the footage. I didn't hear any difference. I couldn't hear a spark crackling. Hoo-hoo! That's awesome news. It really is. I really don't have a lot of time today, and I just want to get this thing running, try to get it running to make sure that the engine sounds pretty good. So we know we've got a spare engine if we need it. Right, we have spark. We now need to check to make sure we can get fuel down to the carb. So let me go and find the fuel that I drained out of the Linesman's bike, which I pre-mixed. We'll get that slapped in the fuel tank. We'll see if we can get it, coming out through the fuel tap to the carb. Fill the float balls of the carb. I know the carb could do with a clean out, but let's just put some fuel in it and see if it fires up after all these years. If it doesn't, then we'll address the carb problem. But we should check the air filter. It might be full of spiders and stuff. We might need to pull that out. Let's do the air filter next. Here we go. The air filter should be under here if it's the same layout as the TS185, which it probably will be, knowing Suzuki. Right. CCI, crankcase injection, faster, yes, speed and power. Right, hold on to your horses, this could be seized up. Oh, nope, we got it. Now, there could be anything living in this bike. Could be mice, rats. We'll keep that, okay. Who knows? Right, that should, oh, hang on. Whoa, something is definitely living in there. Oh, God, nasty, really nasty. Right, we need some spray on that. That looks pretty damn rusty. Yeah, you can't see from where you are, but you will later on when we take the seat off, because it's really bad. Okay, 10 mil. Here goes. Now, if you remember back to the Linesman's bike, the air filter just completely fell apart when we took it out, so I expect this will be the same. Right, one nut, one washer, and the cover. Way. God. Same problem, look. Well done, Suzuki. The oil pipe runs directly in front of the cover. It makes it almost impossible to get the cover off. There we go. Give it a rive, Andy. Okay, well, there's definitely been something living in there. Yes, if it jumps out, I'm running. God, I think Mr. Mousey made this his little Christmas winter retreat, don't you? I can't see any air filter foam in there whatsoever. So yes, we definitely need to pull that out and give it a bit of a clean, don't we? Bugger. Right, got me pliers. Maybe that bit stays in. I can't remember. Yes, this is the grommet that should come off with the filter. Right, we'll get rid of that. Grommet and a washer. Okay. Oh yes. Beautiful. Good job, Mr. Mouse. Holy moly. Right, we'll stick that away. That'll go in a box for another day. Okay, let me get this cleaned out. And then we'll have a look down the carb and see how bad that is. Okay, mind your eyes. Don't use too much, Andy. You're getting low on that stuff. Jared, I need some more. It does look like Mr. Mousey might have been sleeping down here somehow. There's also some stuff on the intake, actually right in the mouth of the carb. Right, that's clean enough for now. I'll let that evaporate. Okay, in the meantime, I'll go and find some fuel. Holy moly, what a mess. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off, put the torch on, and then feed you in, and you can look down the intake towards the carb. This is the beauty of mobile phones, honestly. They're so useful. Right, we're going in. Hopefully we've got enough room. Ooh, I can see the screen, and that's pretty dirty for a carburetor, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. That's going to need a bit of a clean, isn't it? But it might run. Who knows? No, Andy, you can't start the engine with all that dirt in the intake. Why? Because it gets drawn straight into the engine itself, and it'll cause all sorts of havoc with the big end bearing, the mains, the cylinder. It could cause scoring and all sorts. Now remember, this bike hasn't been started for many, many, many years. So chances are that dirt wasn't there when it was parked up. All of that was pretty clean, one would hope. I think Mr. Mousey has eaten the air filter, the element. Yes, he's just, for whatever reason, he's eaten it. Or he's made a bed out of it and then taken it somewhere else. I've no idea. So I'm going to have to try and clean out that intake rubber in situ, because we all know that intake rubber now has turned essentially to concrete. If I try and remove it, it'll never ever go back on again or onto the carburetor properly. It'll never seal again. So I'm going to try and clean it in situ best I can, which I'll do for now. We need to get all the big chunks out. So let me crack on with that. Holly, are you ready? She is. Right. Over to you, Holly.
Hey guys, Tool Girl Holly here. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. See you next time.
Well, that was a fun job. Thanks, Holly. See you next time. Okay, let's take a quick look. Double check I've got it clean. Okay, you're going in. So if we can stay above that rod. Just. There you go, look. How does that look? That's a lot better. I'm happy with that. Right, let's find some fuel. Right, I've mixed up some premix, about 30-1. We'll be fine. One of these old bikes. And we'll probably put a couple of drops down the cylinder as well and crank it over without the plug-in. Now, fuel tap is currently down, pointing upwards, downwards. You never tell with these things. Some of them point down, and anyway, we'll put it to off for now, and we'll stick some fuel in, and then we'll sort that bit out. Jeez. Oh, man. That's tight. Okie dokie. There's no lock on this, by the way. Oh, there we go. Wasn't too bad. Dare we look inside? We should, shouldn't we? Okay, so a sneak peek before we put the fuel in, just to make sure it's not massively rusted out. It could be. Right, crew, you tell me what you can see. If anything. Ooh, it's not easy, is it, to be fair? But there is some rust. If I give it a shake without spilling the fuel everywhere, it doesn't look too bad. It could be worse. Let's just ignore that for now. Right. First fresh fuel for well over 10 years, I would say. We got a leak. So we only got about just over a litre of fuel in it. And we've got a leak. You can see, if I can get you over there, look. Look, oh, there's a whacking great hole in my fuel tank. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, I'm not one for being cautious, but you got to remember there's no exhaust on this thing either, right? The last thing we want is for the fuel that's dripping out of the fuel tank at the moment, and will no doubt a lot more will come out, getting ignited by the flames firing out of the exhaust port and probably burn my workshop down. So let's remove that seat and the fuel tank, and I'll go and dig out a remote fuel tank that I made years ago from a little weed whacker strimmer thing. Hey, thanks Jared, that was your old weed whacker. Okay, let's get that seat and tank taken off. Right, we'll have rid of the funnel. Put the fuel cap back on. Sorry, tank. Okay, seat. Oh, it's nice. One of those. Nice. Got some pins to take out. Oh, the neighbours are constantly cutting the grass. This is turning out to be a bit more involved than I thought, but anyway, got to get that fuel tank out now because I've got to drain that fuel back out of it. Spider! Go away, spider. God damn it. So quite surprised to see it's the same style hinge seat as on the Linesman's bike. Very cool. Bit rusty. Very rusty. I'll tell you what we could do. Just buzz those bolts out actually. Right, let's do that. Okay. 10mm and an impact. There you go. You should get less vibrations where you are. Now, it doesn't matter if these shear off. This is just going to be a lot easier than trying to get those pins out, to be fair. Nearly. Oh, yeah. That's one. Success. Ah, Andy, you were still doing up. Yes, it doesn't matter. It's scrap. Okay. Let's ignore that didn't happen. undo. Undo's good. See, it's easier on undo. Okay. There we go. That's that done. Okay. Oh, poor bike. Now, there's a bolt down here. Is that a 10? No, it's a 12. We'll get a bigger socket, then it'll fit. Okay, going in. Didn't want to use the impact wrench on this one. I'm not that brutal. Okay, that is out. We need to save that. We'll go in the Mud Bug box. Okay, fuel's off. Need to cut the fuel line because it's as hard as nails anyway. There we go. Right, fuel tank should come off. Now it's going to lose a lot of fuel because the hole's at the front and I've got to lift it up. Come on, you can do it. Whoa. Whoa, there we go. Oh, it's not good, is it? That's a hole. That's a hole. Yeah. She's pretty gone. This side, over here, doesn't look quite so bad. The left-hand side of the tank, she's pretty rotten. And it was leaking down here as well, to be fair. That's where it first started to come out of, I think. Around here somewhere. Oh, yes. There you go. So that's going to just be a monument hanging up from the rafters. Right, we'll just stick a bit of oil down the cylinder. Just normal engine oil's fine. That'll do. We'll give it a bit of a turn over. Don't fall off, right? Turns over so easy. Right, before we stick the plug in, let's take a little look up the exhaust port, seeing as we can. Okay, that is the piston. I'm going to rotate the engine slowly and you tell me if you can see any damage. Well, anything obvious? Cylinder look good? No scores on the piston? No dirt in there? I tell you, it turns over so smoothly. I reckon this thing might go, you know. I've watched the footage. The piston's not in the best condition. I think a lot of that straining or those marks down the side of the piston was actually the engine oil that I put in there and maybe a little bit of dirt. As for scoring, maybe a little bit. Maybe the cylinder's a little bit scored too, to be fair. But it had good compression, really good compression. So let's not worry about that too much at the moment. I just want to get it running. So, all that's left to do is to attach my remote fuel tank to the carburetor and watch it pour fuel all over my workshop. Again. Yeah, there's been fuel spilt all over the place. Anything could happen today. Right, let's crack on. Right, we'll have rid of that. Geez, that was easy. That's the fuel inlet port to the carb. We can get rid of all this shenanigans. And we'll go and see if we've got a new plug as well. But we'll do that in a second. Let's plumb up the remote tank. That is off. We'll stick him on there. Oh yeah, it's not a bad fit. We will hang that up from the ceiling. There we go. And we will turn on the fuel now. Reserve is up. That should be on. Now, wait for all the fuel to pour out of the carburetor. Okay. Well, that's definitely on reserve. It's definitely getting fuel. Let's see if we can find a drain bung for the carb so we can just slacken that off and flush the carb out. Ah, yes, I was right. Well, we know we're getting fuel to the carburetor. That's great. Oh, it's stopping. It's fixed itself. The little needle and seat on the float valve has finally sealed up. That's brilliant. Well done, little mud bug. Now, seriously, how often does that happen, right? First of all, fuel flows to the carb. That's a win. I was just about to undo the bung on the base of the float bowl. Real hard to get to. O-ring could be short. If you disturb it, may never seal again. I was a bit reluctant, but hey, you know, for the viewers, let's do it. And while I was getting set up, it started to dribble out of the overflow. Perfect. And then you saw it real time stop dribbling. Brilliant. The needle and seat on that float valve came around. For now, at least. So, we need a spark plug. Now, I did order a load of parts from Kaitaia Motorcycles, an authorised Suzuki dealership up in Kaitaia, right at the top of the North Island of New Zealand. And I'm hoping that in that box are some spark plugs. Let's take a look. Now, all this stuff's for the Linesman's bike, but it's the same engine on this TF185, so the spark plug should be the same. What have we got? Ooh, a bit of a sneak peek for all the Linesman fans out there. We've got some cables. Oh my word. Levers. Swing arm bushes maybe. Spark plugs. That's what we need. We don't need to go any further. Very well packed. Thank you, Bonnie. Really appreciate that. So the question is this the correct spark plug to what came out? BP7ES. Is that what it was? Let's go and check. Oh no. It started again. Right, I will turn the fuel tap off for now. No point wasting any fuel because damn it's expensive today. Okay, back to the sparking plug. B7ES. And we've got a BP7ES. Does it look the same? Ooh, it's longer. I don't think that's going to work because it might hit the piston. Right. Odd. Okay. Put that back in the box. Sorry, Bonnie. Well, I'll put them into stock. They'll come in one day. Right, we're going to have to clean this up and well, in fact, it can go in as it is, can't it? Because it is sparking. Right, said Fred. Okay, well, shame that we haven't got a new plug. I've checked the rest of my stock and no, we haven't got one. So we'll pop them in there. There's a lot of fuel around. This could be quite dangerous, to be honest. I will mop up the best I can. Remote tank's turned off at the moment. We know the carb's full. It was just overflowing, so the float bowls are full. So we should have enough juice to get it at least to fire. That's enough, Andy. Don't go mad. That was a big spanner you used there. Right, plug cap going on. Get rid of that wiring. God knows where that's come from. Okay, so we know we've got spark. We know the carb's got some fuel in. We don't know how blocked the jets are. We know that the engine's going to get air because there's no air filter and it's clear to the carb venturi. Well, what do you reckon? Holy moly, we are at the point of no return. We need to give it a good kick and see if this old girl is going to fire up into life. It's been at least 10 years, probably a lot longer. I'm looking forward to Roger telling me really the year this thing last ran, because I reckon it's a long time ago looking at the bike. It's had Mr. Mousey living in the airbox. Carb looks pretty iffy. We know it's leaking again, so you know it's going to need a carb rebuild on it. But for today, I just want to hear it run, and then we know, right? Then we know it's worth giving it a bit more time. Are you ready? Place your bets. Here we go. Well, there's only one thing for it, and that's to give it a go. How are we going to do this? It's always hard when it's on a hoist. Right, here we go. First fire, it fired. Right, first spark, boom. Holy moly. Right, bit of choke. This could be dangerous because if it catches fire, I'm on it. Oh, jeez. Don't do that, Andy. Ah, she's flooded. God damn it. Is that petrol? It is. Let's not be defeated. So when the carb was leaking, it's essentially flooded the cylinder, which means that the spark plug's now wet, so we're not getting a spark. So I'm going to pull the plug out, give it a clean, give it a dry off, put it back in, and we'll have another go. Spark plug cleaned, spark checked, carb refilled. Are you ready for another go? Right, the throttle is extremely sticky at this end. It's very rusty under there. Okay, here you go. Now, weirdly enough, when I took the spark plug out, it wasn't dripping with fuel. That seems a bit odd given the fact we're getting loads of fuel dripping out of the exhaust port. It's quite handy not with the exhaust on the engine, isn't it? Now, there is a neat little trick where you can spray down the intake something that's combustible. Brake cleaner is very good for that, just to see if it fires off again. If it does, we know that we've got a fuel delivery problem, probably fuel atomization issue with the carb, which, you know, it's going to need a rebuild, right? I mean, the jets are probably, you know, blocked solid, and that single fire that we got was probably, you know, what was left in the intake manifold, and maybe just the fumes that had built up from, you know, being stood with the carb overflowing. So I'm going to have to rebuild that carb. Well, at least strip it and clean it. That's the plan. But I'm really reluctant to take it off because I know that those rubbers are going to they're just going to fight me. I know the one between the airbox and the carb is never going to go back on again. There is a new one in that box, actually, for the Linesman's bike, not this one, Andy. And there's a new intake rubber from the head to the carb as well. In that box, Andy, not for this bike. So, do we give it one more go with a bit of brake cleaner? It's not going to run for very long, but it might fire again. Here we go. Who knows? It might just explode on me. That's enough. Way too much, really. Okay, here we go. No. Bugger. Things were looking so promising on that first kick. Doesn't want to know now. It's not even trying to start. There's not even the odd fire every now and again. We're dead in the water. Okay, let's get that carb taken off. Okay, well I want to get the airbox out of the way. We don't need that anymore anyway. It's not really serving much of a purpose. And to do that, we need to remove this first, the oil tank. It'll go back in again. But it needs to come out to get this out. We know this from the Linesman's bike. Now we might find some more critters lurking. So if you see anything, just shout, okay? Wow, that came out a lot easier than on the Linesman's bike. Okay, that's just going to have to dangle for a minute. Don't leak. Are you leaking? No, you're not. Well done. Now, a couple of bolts up here, I believe. And I think there was one more somewhere, possibly. Could be wrong. Right, let's get these two hose clamps removed, or slackened off at least. We're going to need some spray on those. Okay, Turbocraft, what is it? Forge S409 going on. Do that one as well while we're on. Okay. Spray, spray, spray. What if it kills spiders as well? Probably does. Okay, we'll do the one at the back first. In fact, I might just leave that one on there and just pull it straight off the carb, thinking about it. Oh, that's loose. Whoa. You going to go on there? Is there any kind of head left? Yes. There we go. That is going to be really tight on the cab. Oh, there we go. Nice. Be quick because of spiders. Okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is a spider. Oh, you're still going. Have some of that, Mr. Spider. Okay, now that clamp has been put on the wrong way around. It's from the other side, so we'll whiz around there and do that one. Okay, we're going in. Sorry, Torchy, you have to move a little bit. Poor little bike. Neglected for all these years, just dumped in a barn. Then even the barn gave up on it and landed on its head. And then stuck down my garden in an old shed for God knows how many years. 4, 5 years. It's been a while. Okay. Jeez, this bike constantly tries to grab me. Rip my clothes. Okay. Let's see if we can get that off. Spiders, cops. Don't like that kind of stuff. Okay. Different carb to on the Linesman's bike, to be fair. It's coming. So it's Tuesday. Right. Or Christmas. Or a payday. That would be nice. Payday. Right, I think we need to be on the other side. Again. Okay, what were we hung up on? Well, we need to take the throttle slider out. So, oh, there we go, look, that was easy. Will it come all the way out now? I think so. Slowly. Get that cable out of the way, and that wire out of the way. Everything's so dry and hard, brittle. Okay, let's just whip that off. Yeah, different carb. Totally different carb, which I wasn't expecting. Maybe this is a different year, because I think they did this one for 2 years. Okay, carb is off. Let's put that somewhere where it's going to stay reasonably clean. That should work, shouldn't it? Okay, to the bench. Carb time, yay! I wonder what we're going to find in here. First step with the carburetor, put the carburetor in a nice metal tray because you want to see the quality of the fuel that comes out and how much water comes out of it. See any water? Not yet. Okay, while that's draining, we'll see if we can get these 4 screws off. Gee, that's brittle. That's really brittle. How do they go there? Nope, it's going to have to get cut. Sorry, pipe. Jeez. It feels like it's almost blocked up. Wow, that was brittle. Look at that. Just like glass. Whoever saw that? Okay. JS screwdriver. Thanks, Simon. That's 1. 2. That's the drain bung, by the way. Sits pretty much directly above the gearbox, and there's hardly any room not to just get to it. Never mind take it out. So this might not be the original carb. Again, I don't know. I'll have to ask Roger when I see him. I'm sure Roger will be watching this video actually. So Roger, was this the original carb on the bike? Because it's different to the Linesman. Very different carburetor, to be fair. Okay, 3 magic taps. Oh yes, there we go. Oh, not too bad. I've seen worse, a lot worse to be fair. However, the jets are the main thing that we're after. Right, need a bit of a rag, cleanish. Stick him over there so we don't lose any bits. A little flat screwdriver will do. Okay, let's push out the pin. Okay, lifting that out. Ah, most usually they have a little metal wire that goes over the top on the little float valve. This doesn't have that. Hang on, get rid of the breather pipe out of my pliers first. There is quite a bit of debris up there as well actually. So we'll just very gently pull him out, stick him on the tissue. Now, remember in one of our previous videos, I mentioned to you that there's an O-ring between the seat of the valve, you know, the float valve, which is this, and the casting of the carburetor. So we've got a problem now where it's leaking fuel from the carb and on the overflow, and that's potentially caused by one of 2 things. More than 2 actually. You could have a hole in your floats, for example. They would just sit at the bottom. They wouldn't float to turn off the fuel supply. They just sit there. The other one is the seat of the needle here could be leaking against the seat down there. Look, so those 2 components, when they touch, they should seal. Or the third one is the O-ring that's behind there. So we can have a quick look while we're in. Carburetors are so basic, so good. Stick him on there. So that should just lift out now, carefully. I haven't got any spares, so be careful with this. There you go, look. And that's the O-ring there. Now if we had one, we could replace it. And we might have one actually. I've got a kit that's got lots of different sizes, so we'll have a look. So we'll do that. Now the important thing is we need to see if either of these 2 or both of these 2 jets are blocked. Given the amount of crud that's in here, and this looks like rust. Yeah, that's rust. Out of the fuel tank, has gone straight into the carb. So highly likely that the jets, the main jet and the idle jet, which is just down there, are blocked. Right, I need a tiny little good flat screwdriver to get the idle jet out. Let me go and have a look, and you can have a closer look. Okay, I've got my 2 electrical screwdrivers. I use these only for electrical and taking out carb jets so they don't get chewed up. This one, that's a bit small. Let's try the next size up. Hopefully this will fit. Yes, right, we've got positive lock on the idle jet, turning anti-clockwise. Oh, yes. The last thing you want to do is chew one of them up. Okay, is he going to come out? Does it need a tap? Yes, there he is. Okay, we'll stick him on the mat, on the tissue, and we'll have a closer look. Now, the main jet. I'll have to get a socket for that. I don't have a spanner small enough, so probably about a 6mm. Okay, brought a selection. What have we got? 7. Too big. What's this one? 6. Oh yeah, 6mm. Okay. Right, you ready? This is just on a screwdriver. It's not a spanner or anything like that. Oh, that was a bit of an anticlimax. A bit loose. Okay, the jet is out, and is there a washer on there? Sometimes there is. Yes. Way, there he is, Mr. Washer. Okay. Right, I'm just looking down. I'll get my little torch. Hang on. All right, so we've got the forge torch on the job, and if I do that, you should be able to see down 2 jets. So we've got a little pinhole in the idle jet, or where the idle jet sits, and then you should be able to see down that one as well, down the main jet. So we'll give those a clean out with some brake cleaner, but they look pretty good. They're not the jets, they're just the tubes that the jets sit in, but they can be blocked as well, so it's important that you make sure that they're clear. Okay, torchy is off, well, mini torchy, and we now need to give those a good blast with some brake cleaner, don't we? And we'll put some in the float bowl as well while we're on. Took that straight out. Jeez. Alright, we'll let that sit. I'm going to get rid of that other pipe because, to be honest, it's so brittle. It's just going to get in the way. There we go. Andy, you're hard. Yes. Yes, sometimes I am. Realistic. Right, okay. This one. I'm trying not to get it on the lens of the camera, but trying to do it very close for you. Way! It went all over the camera. God damn it, Andy. Sorry, phone. It's not going to like that. Not one bit. Okay, we will leave that for a bit, and then that'll soak, and then we'll get that a blast out with the airline. Same with that one. Now for the really tricky stuff. We need to know how blocked the jets are. So, first of all, the idle jet. So let's remove the tray, because then the camera works a lot better, and we'll see if we can see through that jet with a torch. Ha! How's that? I put some tape over the end and basically made a little pinhole camera, and hopefully that's going to cut down the glass. What we're looking for is light shining through that jet. I'll just turn it around this way. And it's not easy, to be honest. And normally you'd look up to the light, not directly at the sunshine, you'd look up at a light and just move it around, see if you can see down the actual jet itself, and see that little tiny pinhole of light coming through. But this doesn't look like it's... I would suggest that is blocked. So let's give that a bit of a clean out. Let's get the main jet. These are bigger, so they're less likely to block up. Oh yeah, there you go. That main jet's just fine. No problems at all there. Perfect. So Andy, how are you going to clear out that little tiny hole? Well, a lot of people, and I used to use just one of the wires off my wire brush. Either wiggle it out and use it in some pliers, or just use it on the wire brush and try and thread it through. Just straighten it out first, because they're normally a bit wiggly, aren't they? They're not straight. However, bad, really bad, because remember, these holes are calibrated. They're very, very specific in their size, because that's how you control the mixture. To the main extent, there is some adjustment on the carburetor, but that's the main, you know, if the hole gets too big, it's going to run rich, right? At idle, it'd be a nightmare to sort it out. However, I have a brass wire brush. Now, these little strands are a lot softer, and this happens to be made out of brass as well. So this will cause it a lot less harm. So I'm going to wiggle off one of these little strands, put it in my pliers, and see if I can use that to dislodge the little tiny bit of dirt that's causing all these problems. I hope that's all it is. Plus that O-ring probably as well, to be fair. Right. Wish me luck. Right, we'll get rid of the steel wire brush. Steel is way too hard to be using in this car job. And we need, sorry, wire brush. I'm going to steal a bit of wire out of you. Actually, is that going to stay in place? It is. All right. Now, I'm not sure if you can even see this, to be honest. I am really struggling to see it these days. Nope, we missed it. Oh. I've got to get the light just right so I can see it. There we go. Give me a little twizzle. Do the in and out thing. Get another little twizzle, in and out. Can I blow through it? Probably not. I can. Alright, let's give it a bit of a clean with the old brake cleaner. Now there's little tiny holes all around the periphery of this tube. This emulsion tube basically is what that is, the mini emulsion tube. So I'm going to try and block those with my fingers, put the spray on the end, and not spray the camera. Okay. Right, let me give it a quick blast out with the airline, and we'll take a look and see if we've got it clear. Right, said Fred, I have found a little tiny bit of hose to put on the end of my air gun. We'll stick him in there, just give it a bit of light pressure. Ready? Mind your ears. Can I get that to stay in there? Yeah, that's blowing through. Perfect. I like it. Now, can you see it? That's the question. Right, I'll bring you back so we can use the torch. Sorry, I don't mean to blind any of you. Let's try and get this in position before we bring it up to the camera, shall we? Oh yeah, look at that. So that was definitely blocked. Cool. Idle jet, now clear and ready for action. Okay, I've just blasted the main jet out with some brake cleaner anyway, just on the safe side, but it all looks fine. Just got a little paintbrush, some kind of sort of like maybe a fiberglass brush or a brass type wire brush. On, you know, of that sort of size would be great for inside the carburetor, just to dislodge all the crap. Oh, that's alright, that's corrosion. We'll leave that alone. Just going to make sure you get all the rubbish out. It only takes the smallest amount of dirt to cause you a problem. Oh, we did get a new float ball gasket for the Linesman bike. Although I'm dubious as to whether it's the right one now that I've seen two different carburetor types on these bikes. Seems a bit odd. Right. Dispose of that. Obviously recycle. Right, airline. Let's give it a blast out with the airline. Mind your ears. Oh yeah, looking pretty clean. Where's my little flat screwdriver? There he is. There's a little bit down here we want to get out. Put in that corner there, look. Putting scratches on the inside of the float ball doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Don't worry about that kind of stuff. You can see how just a little brass wire brush would bring this up real nice. You know? Right, brake cleaner, mind your eyes. Oh, not on the camera again, Andy. Right, one last flush around. We'll give it a blast with the airline one more time, and then we'll move on to the main body of the carb and get that O-ring changed as well. Okay. Off camera. There you go. Okay, that's done. Stick him over there. Now, the carburetor. We've got a few things we need to check with this, and we're not doing a full rebuild by any means, but we do need to make sure it's going to function. So we've got there's a number of internal drillings inside the carburetor which allow air or fuel to flow, and we need to make sure that they are clear. So the easiest way of doing that is to get your brake cleaner. All right. In fact, I'll put you on the big tripod. I'll get you out of the way for a second. Have a coffee, please. Yeah. Bacon butties are on their way. Okay, so all we need to do is blast some brake cleaner down each of these holes. Make sure it comes out somewhere. It would be good to have a bit of pipe on there, actually. Let me see what I can come up with. Nothing. I have got no pipes that small, so that's the end of that one idea. Right, mind your eyes. Mind your eyes, Andy. Okay. You see where that was coming out? There we go, look. So he's nice and clear. Let's try this one. He's nice and clear. Right, that's good news. Now we know that this is the fuel in, so we'll try that. We should see that jetting out of there. There. Cool. Right, we need the airline. Oh, we've got this one here as well, look, so we'll do that one. You ready? That should come out inside the Venturi. That was blocked, wasn't it? That's clear now. Excellent. Right, airline time. Give that a clear out again. And that one. Do the jets, where the jets go. Don't blow my bits away. Okay, fuel in. Looking good. Right, let's just try these two. Where's that going to live? Okay, we've got these two at the front here. There's one there. Need to make sure they're all clear. Yes, you'll see that coming up there, look. Nice, that's good. Try that one. Right, that one comes out underneath. There you go, look, hang on. On the idle circuit, and we've got that one down the side. Did we do that one? Choke. Okay, and then we bring the choke up, and that should seal that off. It does. There. Need a rag. Don't get brake cleaner in your eyes, children. It hurts. Okay, so we've just proved that the choke, you can see that that drilling there runs down the side of the carb. This is basically just a open and close valve, you know, and then it basically pops in down here. So we're all good there. I'm not going to spend loads of time cleaning the outside of the carburetor. This wasn't supposed to be a how to rebuild your carburetor video. This was supposed to be, let's get the old Mud Bug going video. But I suppose, you know, it was inevitable we're going to end up in the carburetor at some point. Jeez. Give it a clean, Andy. Give it a clean. Right. Okay. Now, that is your idle adjustment. That's just a brass bolt, basically a rod that sticks in and lifts the slider up and down and adjusts how much air can go in the engine and therefore the idle RPM. We have a mixture screw here as well, idle mixture screw, which is that one. And that limits the air allowed to pass through this bypass port. I'm not going to play around with that. We know that it's clear because we're getting brake fluid coming out of there. I've just found a load more dirt. There, look. I think that was spat out of there when we give it a blast. There we go, that's clear. Okay, so what's next, Andy? Well, we need to do that O-ring. So let me go and find the O-ring box and we'll see if we've got one the right size. I found it! After all these years, still in the same drawer. Pretty cool. However, Mrs. Mechanic has implemented going for a walk Sunday. Yes, 2:30 every Sunday afternoon, Andy goes for a walk in the wilderness where there's bugs and other things. So we will continue this tomorrow. We're back. It's the afternoon of the following day and some great news. We've got a Bake Shack mince and cheese. So I'm going to put that in the pie warmer straight away because that's my lunch, and lunch was a while ago. Also, I've been having a bit of a think. It's always good to sleep on things. And I think, potentially, whilst the carburetor was overflowing, and it was overflowing for a while, and we thought it had stopped, it wasn't dropping on the bench, that doesn't mean to say that it wasn't overflowing internally into the intake manifold, and that fuel going off down into the crankcase. I took a look at the remote fuel tank that we're using, and it had lost quite a bit of fuel, a lot more than what was on the hoist on the bench top. So I think some of that's gone down into the crankcase, and that's what's coming up into the cylinder when we're trying to start the bike and just flooding the whole combustion chamber. So I've got to come up with a cunning plan to get that fuel out. Sure, some of it might have evaporated overnight, but there's still going to be a fair bit in there. And until I can get that out, we're not going to be able to get this bike started. It's just going to keep fouling the plug. Yeah. So let's go and put the pie in the pie warmer. Here we go. Ooh, she's a bit crumbly today. Looking forward to this. Not always I don't get a pie every day anymore. Probably a good thing, to be fair. Right, stick him in there. Those that do the live stream, you'll know, 23 minutes, perfect heating from the fridge. So we'll leave that alone. And I suppose, in the meantime, we should go and carry on with the carburetor because it'll take a little bit of time for that to warm up. Okay, we've got the old O-ring on the seat of the float valve, so we'll just pop that off. And that should give us an idea of what size we need. Don't break. They can get pretty brittle over time, can these things? It's going to break. I know it's going to break. It has broken. Look at that. Okay. So we need something around that size, and it has to be resistant to petrol. All of these are. Okay, let's see if we can find one that matches. Now, these came from a place in Auckland a few years ago called Advanced Seals. And the guy there probably doesn't work there anymore, but if he does, hi Luke, a guy called Luke West. There's his mobile number. So if you're in the Auckland area, you need carburettor seals, O-rings, then he's a good source. Okay, so if we pop that on there, it gives us an idea of what size we need. And that looks pretty close. We need to also look, bear in mind the thickness of the O-ring as well, the section. This one down here looks pretty close. Let's just grab one of those carefully and stick that alongside. Maybe a little bit small in section, so we'll pop him back. Came out that one. One next to it. What's this one like? Oh, he's a bit big, but this may have shrunk. It was quite a loose fit. But ID, maybe it's slightly bigger. So we'll stick him back. What about one of these? Oh, that's way too big. That's not going to work, Andy. Okay, so we could try this one. That's a bit smaller on the OD, which is probably a good thing because it was a little bit loose, but it's quite chunky. Yeah, we're clutching at straws here, aren't we? Grab one of those again, stick him on there. I think that's a better bet than that one, so we'll stick him back, which came from in there by the looks of it. Yes. Okay, well, there is one other one down here all on his own. What's that one like? Possibly we've got a choice of two. This is quite chunky though, isn't it? So we'll stick him back over there for now. Okay, well, let's give this one a go, see if it's going to work. Okay, before we fit the O-ring, let's give that groove a little bit of a wire brush using that brass wire brush, just to make sure there's no dirt trapped under there. That looks a bit cleaner, doesn't it? Okay, a bit of brake cleaner. Can't beat brake cleaner. Okay. And we need a rag. Dry that off. I'm not sure if these seals are, if they might react with brake cleaner. Sometimes brake cleaner causes O-rings to swell. Brake cleaner is not petrol, and these ones are just petrol resistant. There we go. Nice and clean. Make sure it's not on my fingers. Okay, new O-ring going on. There he goes. Right, is that going to fit back in the carburettor? Maybe a little bit of rubber grease on there might help. Wow, this needs a clean, doesn't it? Oh, you see Mr. Ratty's been on the top. You see his little paw prints? Little bugger. Okay, there we go. Now we only need a tiny amount, so we'll do that. Get rid of that, and then we'll just put a little tiny bit on the seal. Because what we don't want it to do is to bind up as it's going in and cause damage and, you know, a groove in the O-ring itself. Because then, well, he's going to leak again, isn't he? Okay, that should do the trick. Fingers crossed. Okay. Can you see? You can. Right, we're going in. So it goes in that way. Give me a little push down. Maybe use the top of the screwdriver for that. There he is. He's in. Perfect. So now there was that little holder. which was that way up by the looks of it, going by the witness marks. And where's my screwdriver? There it is. We will pop him back in as well. And that'll hold it in place. Cool, that was lucky we had one of those. Okay, now the jets. So we can put the main jet in, and we had a little washer just there, look. Main jet going back in, we know that's nice and clean now. Now we had a little screwdriver somewhere, there we are. Don't over tighten these things. That'll do nicely. And then we've got the idle jet. Remember we cleaned that out yesterday. I'll pop him down there. And it was the larger of the electrical screwdrivers. I actually edited the video up that we did yesterday. So pretty much on the ball. Right, that's in. Again, don't over tighten it. Now we need, oh geez, just need to give that a bit of a wipe on the end. That's the taper at the end of that is what seals against the seat of the float valves. It needs to be nice and clean and not pitted and stuff. It looks pretty good. It is a bit worn though. You can see that or not on there. It's very, very, there you are, look. So it has got, you can see a little ridge about 2/3 down. So that is a bit worn. That could be another reason why it's leaking. But there's nothing I can do about that. We're going to have to just put it in and hope for the best. And they should be spring loaded. There should be a little tiny spring on that plunger. See there, look? So always check that's free as well. Right, we'll pop him in there. He's in. And now all that's left to do is put the floats back in on the pivot. Now you don't need to put any oil or anything like that because the fuel just lubricates it, and it should be a nice loose fit. There we go. And we can test this actually. We can go and get the remote fuel tank now, and we can hold it up that way, apply the fuel to the inlet, and then just make sure that when we lift the floats up it doesn't leak at all. Very important to check that now. Okay, we will turn that on to reserve. I don't think it makes, I think I took both the snorkels out of there. Right, we're dribbling fuel. You can see that. Lift that up. Oh yeah, perfect. No leaks. I like it. Right, turn that off. And get the pipe off. We can finish putting the carburetor back together. Excellent. Okie dokie. Well, little carb. Fingers crossed. On you go, buddy. Okay, screws going in. Not sure where these two little clips went. Doesn't matter because we've got no pipes anymore. Right, screwdriver. Put those two in as well. Now it's important not to over tighten these, because if you do you can cause the float bowl to bend and then it'll leak forever. Now we're not using a new gasket, so hopefully it'll come around. It didn't tear. Those 3 magic taps made all the difference. Very important actually. Seems to work well nearly every time. It really helps the gasket to break free in one piece. Okay. Now we can't fit the carburetor just yet. We need to address the problem of the fact that there could be neat fuel sat in the crankcase. So I've got to go and investigate that next. And then once we've fixed that problem, or guaranteed there's not fuel in there, we can then refit the carb. So we'll leave him just over there. We'll come back to that shortly. Right, to the bike. Pie's ready. Nice. That looks a lot better. Lunchtime. Bake Shack mince and cheese. Not the best pie in the world, but not bad. Good and hot. Just the way I like it. Now, we have a dilemma. Two-stroke engines have to have a valve system on the intake track downstream of the carburetor to basically only allow the air to flow in one direction towards the crankcase, the air-fuel mixture. So they use reed valves and disc valves and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, we can't just poke a pipe down into the crankcase and suck out all the fuel. That ain't going to happen. So I think the only way that we could drain this crankcase, because it's sealed, there's no drain bung at the bottom, nothing like that, because this kind of thing should never happen. The only way really is to put the bike on its side or even upside down. That's a bit of a palaver, isn't it? Anyway, let me eat my pie and see if I can come up with a cunning plan. Not a bad pie at all. Did the trick. Lunch is done. So just after lunch, I popped up my laptop and had a hunt around for the manual for the Linesman's bike, and I couldn't find it. It must be on my other laptop, not my workshop laptop. You don't mix the two, right? Workshop laptops get wrecked. You know why. But I did find a TS185ER manual. Now, they're a later sort of 80s bike, and that does have reed valves, according to the manual. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, we can't stick a pipe down, try and suck out the fuel, Andy. You're going to have to hang the bike upside down on the winch in the workshop, which is, you know, that's bad, isn't it? You know, having to do that kind of stuff. If it was a dirt bike, wouldn't really be too much of a problem. People would probably do that. So I set the camera up to look down the intake, just to double check. And then, as you'll see on the footage that I'm playing right now, as I then bring the piston up to TDC, you'll see two cutouts in the skirt of the piston. And that's how Suzuki, back then, introduced a valve into the intake system to only allow mixture flow towards the crankcase, whilst there was vacuum. You know, as the piston goes up, it creates a vacuum in the crankcase, draws the mixture in as soon as those two little valves open. And then as soon as the piston clears TDC and it's on its way back down again, those two little windows close. The skirt of the piston closes them off. So old school way of doing it, nothing wrong with it at all, works great on the Linesman's bike. In this particular instance, it does give us access to the crankcase area. Now, depending on the web of the crank, there may be no room at all to get a pipe down into the base of the crankcase. But it's worth a try. So then I thought, well, what can we use to suck it out? Well, I've got two options. I've got this, which is a vacuum brake bleeder. I can plug it into the airline, it'll create a vacuum, and I can do sucky suck suck on this pipe. Obviously, I'll take the nozzle off the end. If that doesn't work, then we've got somewhere, over there, an alum lube, sort of pumpy up type, well, it's not a dispenser, it's for draining fuel tanks and stuff. We could maybe resort to using that. But I think this will be the best bet. Now, the only dilemma I've got here is this is designed for use with brake fluid. And it could be, and I'm sure there's some seals in there, it could be that if petrol gets in contact with those seals, it could cause them to expand a little bit short term. I'm sure once the petrol, evaporates off, goes away, they'll go back to the normal size. So we'll try this first. It's a long shot. I hear what you're saying. It's a real long shot, and sticking things down inside engines is never a good idea. But we've got nothing to lose, and as long as I take the fitting off the end, which I've just done now, we have just a pipe. Now obviously, very important that we don't move the position of the piston while we're doing this, otherwise it's going to guillotine off a bit of my pipe and it's going to be a top end rebuild, which we're not doing today. Andy hasn't got time for that. So let me get set up. Let's see if we can extract some fuel from that crankcase. This is only a theory. There may be no fuel in there. I don't know. But I'm tempted. I'd just like to check, because the level in that remote fuel tank went down significantly. That fuel had to have gone somewhere. All right, fingers crossed. This is a first. Got to work it out. Yes, right. I've got a good view now from the directly into the crankcase. Piston is at TDC. We will turn on the sucky device. It's going to be hard to get it through that window. It's all really just steel, to be honest. There we go. Can we get it to go down? I think we need some spray. Hang on. Right, silicone spray going in. See if that's going to help a little bit. Make things a bit more slippy.
Some time later.
Not looking hopeful, people. Let's just turn that off for a second. Air compressor should stop in a minute. And we'll try and get it further down, and then we'll turn it back on again. Andy, this is a stupid idea. Yes, it is actually. But it ain't stupid if it works, right? So I'm just twisting the pipe to try and wiggle it further down, but I don't think there's enough clearance in there. Right, that's about as far as we're going to get. We'll turn it back on again. No. It was worth a try, wasn't it? So that failed dismally, but without trying, you just don't know. It was worth a shot. So where do we go? Shall we just pop the carb back on? It's a 2-minute job, and try again and see if it'll fire up. That's worth a go, at least, isn't it? Plus, it means that the throttle slider is secure and it's not going to get damaged should I decide to turn the bike upside down using the winch. Let's do that. Okay, let's turn that clamp around so it's the right way around this time. Make life a little bit easier. Okay, we can pop that back in. So that's that way around. Dub, dub, dub. I always remember the little Honda C50 engines I used to work on when I was a kid. First ever engines that I took apart and broke and blew up and set fire to, actually, as well, in my go-karts. Great fun. Good little engine to learn on, to be fair, because it's 4-stroke. Okay, now without introducing any dirt into the intake track, let's try and get this back into position. Okay, Heave. Oh, yes, there we go. Okay, carburetor is in place, or carby if you're a New Zealander. Now this probably isn't going to work either, but it's got to be worth a try, right? Okay, so we need to prime the carb, so we need the remote fuel tank again, which we can hang up. But first, I need to lower the bike. Oh, it doesn't reach. God damn it. Okay, we'll just hang it on there. Plumb him in. We'll hold it up and we'll prime the carb. Priming, 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 priming. It's not leaking. That's a good sign. Okay, we'll just sit that back on there. The ignition's on. Does it need a choke? Probably not, actually. Okay. Now, I've not cleaned the plug. Who knows? Ooh, we had a fire. Choke going on. Oh, I've got to get rid of these. Oh, one fire again. It wants to go, but it's a little bit reluctant. Right, I'm going to get rid of these things because they are nasty. Pliers. Yes. Okay. Oh, things are so low these days. Right. Let's whip the plug out, see what condition it's in again. Why just one fire, buddy? What's going on there? Okay. It's not dripping wet, is it? It's a bit grubby. Maybe it needs a bit of a clean. Oh, somebody wants me. I daren't put that longer plug in it. I know when I was editing the video, the plug didn't look to be any longer, the new plug. But it did when it was in my hand. Maybe we can double check. I could always Google the measurements, I suppose, as well. I know we've got a plug from the Linesman's bike, but I don't want to steal that. Might forget to put it back in again, it'll get full of spiders and things. Okay. Well, that's a lot cleaner. We'll just run some emery cloth through the electrode just to make sure it's super clean in there. And we'll give it a blast with the airline, make sure there's nothing down between the insulator in the centre and the outer causing it to arc down there when it's under pressure. That could be the cause. Okay. Right, that's clean. Where's the airline? Now I'm just looking down on the bench and there's no big puddle of fuel like there was yesterday. Okay, I'll go and check with Spark again. Alright, tell me what you see. Looks pretty good to me. Okay. Let's get rid of that. It's getting rather repetitive, is this, isn't it? I like engines that just fire up and rum, I want to live. This one seems a little bit less wanting to live. Seems to be quite happy in retirement. But it is trying. We've had a couple of, you know, bop, initial crank. That'll do, Andy. Don't go mad. Okay. Alright, well, let's find out. Who knows? Alright, let's just make sure we're primed again. Okay, there should be fuel in the car. Ooh. Choke off. We're getting one fire. And then the plug's fouling up. I think we need to try a new plug. That could be the problem. Ooh, it smells good. It smells great. Just that one fire. Ah, and now we are getting fuel dribbling out. Great. If we can get it to fire and run, it will flush all that crap out of the crankcase. I'm sure that's what it is. Soaking wet. Can you see there, look? Dripping in fuel again. Bugger. Okay, well, the original plug is, well, it's not the plug's fault, it's getting covered in fuel on a regular basis, and there is fuel dripping out of the cylinder again now, so I think my hypothesis could well be correct. Now, this is the new plug that Bonnie sent down, BP7ES, whereas the original is B7ES, if you remember. Now, I've done a bit of research. I should know this, but I must have forgotten. The P stands for projected insulator. So if you look there, look, you see the insulator is stood out a little bit. Not a lot. But if you line these up, the thread length is the same, 19 millimeters it says. But the length of the actual distance from when it seats to the end of the electrode on the projected insulator plug is a fraction longer. Probably 2, maybe 3 millimeters longer. So this may still hit the piston. That's a problem. So I'm going to pop it in and very slowly crank the engine over and see if we get any kind of contact. Worst case scenario, it'll just improve the compression ratio. Yes, that'll be a win. Okay. I'm just being a bit dubious and a bit cautious, to be honest. Right, that's all the way in. I mean, this is probably going to get just as quickly fouled as the old plug, so we're not going to benefit much from it, I don't think. But it's worth a try. Right, that'll do. Let's not go mad. Right, very, very slowly. I'm sure it'll be fine, but we've got to check. Yeah, we're good. Right, plug cap going back on again. Let's prime the carb. Right. Carb primed, probably full anyway. Let's give it a go. I don't know how popular a video is going to be on me kicking a motorcycle over and over and over again, many times. We will see. Okay, choke is off. I think there's plenty of fuel in there anyway. Here we are back at the bench again. This is the new plug. Now ignore the oil around the edge of the threads, that's just from the head. But the plug itself, the electrode, looks wet. Wet with fuel again. So I think, in fact I'm very confident there is a lot of fuel sat in the crankcase, and I'm going to have no choice but to turn the bike upside down and try and drain that out, and then we can give it another go. You see, looks dull when it's dry, doesn't it? Bugger. So I'm going to, there's one more test we could do to prove this hypothesis. Take the carb off, just strap it up out of the way, do the same thing again. If the plug continues to get wet, the fuel's coming from somewhere, it has to be coming from the crankcase. I hear you. But I'm pretty confident it is coming from the crankcase. Confident enough to go through the palaver of trying to turn this bike upside down. Now sure, we might lose a bit of gearbox oil. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for this particular task at all. Now I'm on my own today, so this is going to be fun. Let me see what I can come up with, and then I'll turn the camera back on, because this is not going to be pretty. Such a weird sight. Honestly, an upside down motorcycle in the workshop. Never ever done this before. Oh, now. Okay. So we've got water running out of the frame. Oh, interesting concept. All right, that's not what we're after. What we want is fuel out of the cylinder. And that's not it. However, that is. Okay. Let's go around this side. Now, of course, the piston has to be in the right position to allow it all to flow through, and I'm going to have to kick it over a few times, I think, to try and flush it out. So I'll stick you guys back on the tripod, and we'll see what happens. How do you kickstart a motorcycle upside down? I suppose like that. All I'm seeing is water. Do we need to just have that end lower? Would that help? And it might come out through the intake. I'm sure there's some in there. And we know there's some in there because it's coming out here. It's not as much as I thought there would be. Okay, let me lengthen that strap. Try again. Well, oh, there's definitely more drippy stuff going on. And, not really seeing the gush of petrol that I was hoping for. So that's the water, still dripping. Two-stroke oil, two-stroke oil. But if you look on the intake, oh, come on, focus. There you go. If you look on the intake, we're not getting fuel running out of there, so. Well, I suppose we got some water out of the frame, didn't we? So surprisingly, it didn't take me very long to jerry-rig something to hang the motorcycle upside down, which is disturbing, to be fair. As you can see from the position of the wheels, if they spun, then the ratchet straps would be in a very different position. Hang in there, spokes, you'll be fine. Okay, let me get this back down again, back in the hoist, the right way up. Let's go from there.
Don't fast forward. This one's going to be great.
No motorcycles were harmed in that stunt. Okay, so now that we're back up the right way, there is definitely some seepage out of the cylinder of petrol. She was definitely flooded, there's no doubt about that. But there was nowhere near the volume of fuel in the crankcase than I thought that there might be, given how much the, you know, you can see the tank. It was about half full. And now it's way, way down. So, you know, you can understand my suspicions, right? I took the carb off to protect the carb and stuff, so we'll stick that back on again. Well, in fact, before we do that, we know there's no fuel source. Let's clean the plug, chuck the plug in it, give it a kick over. And if the plug gets wet again, we know there's still some fuel in there. Carburetor is still off the bike. Let's give it a few kicks over on the kickstart, pull the plug, see how wet it is. Ooh, did you hear that? Turns out the TF185 from the mid-70s doesn't need a carburetor. No, it's quite happy just having fuel poured into the crankcase and a good kickstart. I knew she'd run. Wide open throttle wasn't the plan. God, what will the neighbours think? Well, the successful part of that is we proved a number of things. One, there was fuel in the crankcase, an excessive fuel in the crankcase. And two, it runs, be it missing a few parts. And see, it revs its nuts off pretty well too, without an exhaust. Oh man, that's made this whole video worthwhile. It has. And why did it rev its nuts off? Well, because essentially it was wide open throttle, you know, full non-restricted airflow into the crankcase and up into the cylinder. Basically, as if you were on stop. It didn't last for long. It won't have caused any damage. Got my heart going there. How about yours? Okay, I'm going to crack on and reinstall the carburetor. Refill it because I drained all the fuel out again. And then we'll see if we can get this thing to fire up properly. Okay, well, this is, you know, why shouldn't it run now? Got rid of all the fuel out of the crankcase. Now, public service announcement. It's going to be quite loud. Just thought I'd let you know. Assuming it's going to start. Okay, fuel is on. Permanently connected to the carb. The choke is off. Let's see if we can get this thing to go. Kill switch works. Brilliant. We went at a roundabout way to get there, didn't we? But you know what? Sounds mint. And I like it with no exhaust. Neighbours won't. Dogs won't. The neighbour's cat won't. But that was brilliant. Well, bit more involved than getting the linesman's bike going, to be fair. Actually, can you smell that out there, can you? Yeah. It's a lot worse in here. But there's a few takes, you know. If you've got a carb that's spewing fuel out and it's a two-stroke, beware. I mean, obviously that problem wasn't there when we first dragged the bike in here because it was dry as a bone. I think in future, I'll be a bit more prudent. You know, maybe pull the carb off first. Maybe clean it first. Check the float valves working properly before I fit it to the bike. And that would have avoided that entire saga. But if I'd done that, we wouldn't have heard it rev its nuts off without a carburetor fitted, would we? No, we wouldn't, Andy. And that was fun. To be fair, not expected. Hand on heart, I didn't think it was going to do that. I just thought it was going to foul the plug again, and we might have got a couple of coughs and farts from it, but man, she fired straight up and revved to the limiter. Bop! Yeah, until she ran out of fuel. Great fun. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It was pretty entertaining, I think, in some cases. I've enjoyed doing the bike. Clearly, the engine's been stress tested. We know it's a good one. So I can put that on my inventory list of good bits and pieces. As regards the future of this bike, and this is the serious bit, you know, are we going to save it or is it going to be used for parts? The tank's scrap. But maybe a TF185 fuel tank will fit. I'll have to check. I only have one really good TF125 at the moment that I'm not going to use for parts. I want to build that one up as another bike for the fleet. You know, the collection, so to speak. But I could easily get hold of another donor bike. They are very, very cheap. And I'm heading down to the South Island soon, and there's loads of them down there. And I know there's a dealer that buys quite a few in part exchange, and he lets me have them for next to nothing. So maybe I'll hit Ricky up, see what he can do for me. So this bike, the decision hasn't yet been made. You know, if we can make a TF185 tank and seat fit, you know, find another exhaust maybe. I don't know. We'll work something out, I think. But it's not going to get done for a long time. Sorry, Roger. It's just going to sit there, out of the rain, in a shed. But we know the engine works, and it works pretty damn well. We don't know about the clutch. We've no idea about the gearbox. But Roger can comment on that. Did it have all the gears, Roger? It probably did. Otherwise, it'd have told me. Did the clutch slip? That doesn't really matter. We'd probably put new plates in it anyway. So, yeah, it's been fun. Yes, it runs. Yes, it runs without a carburetor, which is even better. You know? So I'm very happy. So, listen, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel and you enjoy this kind of video, and it's not just bikes that we do cars and weld up trailers and fabricate and bit of lathe work, machining. I've not yet tackled the mill much, but we'll do some mill work at some point as well. Then why not subscribe? It's free. There's no obligation. Doesn't cost $1 or a cent or a penny or anything. You just click it. If you want notifications, then ring the bell. If you don't ring the bell, YouTube won't bother you. But it does mean that you can find the channel again a lot easier in the future if you're a subscriber. Now, you'll also find me on Facebook and Instagram, so you can follow me along on those as well if you like. And if you want to support the channel, there's a few different ways you can do that. You can become a patron, you can do a one-off donation or a monthly donation for as long as you like or as short as you like. That does unlock various tiers, and there's a lot of stuff on there as well. Tool girls and history about the channel and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, every now and again, there's a secret video goes on there, and videos sometimes go out on Patreon a bit earlier than on YouTube. So again, patrons get first dibs. You can also jump onto PayPal and send a one-off payment that way. Just use the email address on the screen right now. Please don't mark it as a donation. I'm not a registered charity. PayPal won't let it go through. Just send it as a payment, please. Or if it's not money related, you can do lots of other things to help the channel. You could send me something to my PO box address. I'll pop that on the screen for you now. Be it a letter or a parcel or an old tool that you want me to use in the workshop. Something that you think is really, it will be helpful to me to use, and you'll see it in future videos. Or just a letter. How you doing, Andy? How's it going? What's New Zealand like? Thinking of living there? All that kind of stuff. The other thing you could do is share one of the videos, be it this one or another video, on your social media or Instagram, your Facebook, whatever it is, and that helps to get us a few more subscribers. And we're nearly at the 100,000. I can't wait. We are getting close. We're getting about 200 subscribers a month at the moment, which is pretty good, but it could be better. And I know for a fact that only about 35% of all viewers are actually subscribers. So there's lots more of you out there that haven't yet clicked the subscribe button. Okay, crew, I've got a bit of tidying up to do. It's been a fun day. Fun couple of days, actually. And I'll get this video edited up, finished tomorrow. Probably blow the speakers on my headphones while I'm doing it. But hey, I'll turn the volume down a bit for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, crew. Thanks for watching. Over and out. And we get the flip again.